Next story report: Iran attack postponed until spring 2013. Israel's plan to attack Iran has been postponed until spring 2013 following a war simulation that showed Iran could kill 200 Americans with a single missile attack, according to a report by senior Haaretz correspondent Amir Oren. And basically, many are of the opinion now that the Israelis, having done this deal with Obama where the US will supply the bunker busters and the refueling planes, has convinced Israel to back off the attack until after the November election. And whether that's, heralds the second term of Obama, or we see Romney or somebody else get in, the policy is going to be exactly the same. So speculation that it's been delayed until next year. Of course, we know Iraq was initially scheduled to take place in 2002. It got delayed until 2003. But on the other hand, you've got two US aircraft carriers already positioned in the Persian Gulf. You've got another one, the USS Enterprise, on its way. And then you've got, as we reported last week, 4 anti-mine ships also on their way to the Strait of Hormuz. So although the chatter on Iran has gone relatively quiet for the time being, the fact that that naval might is still in the region suggests that the whole situation is very much still a powder keg. Remember, the neocons have been begging Obama to go to war for years. So him attacking Iran before the election is not going to do his street cred with them much harm. In fact, they're, prodding him to do it. And he could pose as this tough guy war leader before the election to obtain votes if he does that. So disagreement on when the attack will take place, but still the consensus is that it will take place within the next year. Why does the Department of Homeland Security need 450 million hollow point bullets? This is a story out of the American Dream. Somebody out there has decided that the Department of Homeland Security needs a whole lot of ammunition. Recently, it was announced that ATK was awarded a contract to provide up to 450 million hollow point bullets to the Department of Homeland Security over the next 5 years. And this article asks, what are these 450 million rounds for? Doesn't it sound a little bit excessive? Well, there's no doubt, as we documented, that Homeland Security is arming itself to the teeth. You may recall the report we did last month, I believe it was, concerning how the DHS was hiring hundreds of armed security guards to protect federal buildings. We know that DHS was preparing for violence on behalf of the Occupy Wall Street movement, and indeed, they were the ones leading the crackdown, directing the New York police. They actually had their own FPS agents arresting photographers on the scene as well. So we've also got, as we reported back in January, DHS guards, again armed with semi-automatics, running this checkpoint at a Florida Social Security office, checking people's IDs. So it's obvious what they're preparing for. I mean, the DOD characterizes protests as low-level terrorism. So DHS, like most other law enforcement bodies, agencies, is preparing for mass civil unrest. They know that gun sales in America are at an all-time high. We had Black Friday purchases, record levels. Again, that's carried into this year. And it's all part of the effort to refocus the apparatus of the war on terror against the American people. That's why Homeland Security is arming itself to the teeth. Seismometer station rules out earthquakes as cause of Clintonville booms. Despite official claims to the contrary, early data from seismometer station in Wisconsin rules out earthquakes as an explanation for Tuesday night's mysterious booms in the town of Clintonville, as residents continue to clamor for answers amidst increasing suspicion. So basically, they had the National Earthquake Information Center there in Colorado come out immediately after these booms on Tuesday night and said there was no earthquake activity whatsoever. Geophysicist Joe Bellini also came out and said that, quote, "We detected nothing from last night in terms of earthquakes." So these booms, which are described as like underground fireworks, first reported a couple of Sundays ago. Then, of course, we had the USGS come out and say oh, we missed the earthquake. There was actually an earthquake that occurred on Tuesday, 1.5 on the Richter scale, and that's what's causing the booms. Well, residents were quick to point out that the booms were first reported the previous Sunday, so how could an earthquake that supposedly happened on Tuesday be responsible for them? And then again, a couple of nights ago, they had them again, more booms, louder than before, closer together, longer lasting, in an area which is unknown virtually for earthquakes. Wisconsin had a major earthquake for them back in 1947, rattled a few buildings, caused no injuries, and the region is not known for its earthquakes. To have two in a week is virtually impossible. Besides the fact that a town 80 miles away also reported hearing these booms. The USGS itself admits that a 1.5 Richter scale earthquake would only be felt by residents within a few blocks of its epicenter. So how on earth are people 80 miles away feeling it? Residents are suspicious. Doubts are being cast constantly. Now the USGS is calling on residents to report the booms directly to them. City officials who said, case closed, it was an earthquake, even though it had none of the characteristics of an earthquake, they're on the back foot once again. Explanations vary. Secret underground military tunneling, carbon sequestration, which is the process of injecting CO2 into the ground, all part of the climate change fund, the geoengineering capers. That's scientifically proven to cause earthquakes, so that could be an explanation. You've also got disposal of wastewater when it's not properly done from gas fracking operations. That's been proven to cause man-made earthquakes. And of course, the habitual bogeyman of HAARP is also being touted as a potential explanation for these booms. So we'll continue to track this. We're considering sending reporters directly to the scene if these booms continue. The last reports of them were on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. So we'll continue to follow that story. Next news story on InfoWars Nightly News. March 31st, Operation Global Blackout. Hackers intend to shut down the internet by disabling core DNS servers. This article out of SHTF Plan. The hacking group known as Anonymous intends to attack the core servers that control the routing of all internet traffic. And that is, of course, DNS name servers. Once a particular website is requested, a query is sent to a domain name server, which then redirects it to that web address. You probably know how it works. Without these servers, access to website through traditional means, typing in a .com, becomes impossible. So according to this statement released by Anonymous, the hacking group, these servers will come under fire on March 31st, which is on Saturday. And then we have a related article out of the Daily Bell, which asks, Assange and Anonymous as elite helpers. Julian Assange wants to run for public office in Australia, his home country, and Anonymous, who of course are big supporters of Assange, want to destroy the internet, temporarily anyway. We are not surprised. Once more, it would seem Anonymous is acting as a friend as the powers that be, as a friend of the powers that be. So again, we have Anonymous, which, as everyone knows, is completely infiltrated by the feds. Every case where they get busted proves that. A supposedly anarchist group, which with their every action creates further justification for increased state regulation of the internet. Doesn't seem quite how an anarchist group would go about its business. And, you know, Anonymous have made it clear that they don't care who they attack. They've threatened to attack the very people watching their videos on YouTube. You know, they're in it for the lulz, as they say. Most people don't know that InfoWars was actually attacked by this same group from the lulzsec and the 4chan groups that originated and eventually became Anonymous. They actually attacked InfoWars a few years ago. So again, questions are swirling as to why this movement, which is so vehemently being infiltrated, is now calling to shut down the entire internet, which will basically provide the likes of Joe Lieberman and the cybersecurity crowd the perfect pretext to make the argument that the West needs to impose Chinese-style internet policing on the World Wide Web. So again, we'll see what happens on Saturday. Sometimes they make big headlines, anonymous. Sometimes it falls flat on its face. In fact, one of the legitimate targets of their angst was the Bohemian Grove Club, which they supposedly arranged a protest against, and, you know, handful of people showed up. So it could either fall flat on its face or it could either cause problems. We will wait and see on Saturday, 31st of March. Next headline on InfoWars Nightly News, birther controversy. Feds refused to release Obama draft card. This is out of Infowars.com. Steve Watson. A request for original documents by a group investigating the eligibility of President Obama has been turned down by the Selective Service System in a move that is sure to court more controversy. Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio, leader of the probe into the authenticity of the now notorious Obama birth certificate, announced earlier this month that he had cause to believe that Obama's Selective Service registration form was also a forgery. And of course, we've also got the article up on Infowars.com tonight from Patrick Henningsen, who was there on the scene to interview Arpaio and his cold case posse investigators, behind the scenes attempt to kill Arizona's Obama eligibility bill. You can say that properly. So Henningsen is on the scene. He's done the interviews, and basically in this interview, Arpaio slams the media blackout that has taken place around this birth certificate issue. And now it appears that there are shenanigans going on with this bill in Arizona that would force all candidates on the presidential ballot to prove that they are indeed eligible to run for president. People are trying to stop that from getting put through, because if it does get passed, then Obama could be open to perjury charges if he fails to prove his eligibility. So I mean, this issue is only going to get bigger, but as Arpaio has stated, there's a mainstream media lockdown on it. So it remains to be seen whether this bill will be passed with the shenanigans going on there in Arizona. And coming up on tonight's show, we've got interviews with Mike Zullo, Jerome Corsi, of course, Sheriff Arpaio, and the state senator there in Arizona, exploring this bombshell birther issue with Patrick Henningsen, InfoWars reporter, on the scene. So stay tuned for that. You don't have to be a criminal sexual deviant to work for the TSA, but it helps. That's right, the talent pool from which the Transportation Security Administration draws its employees, criminals and perverts, is in the news once again today. Quote, the TSA is under intense scrutiny this week following a congressional hearing to examine the agency's performance, which is why higher-ups will not be pleased to see the headlines thrown up today by a simple online search. And we can barely keep track of the criminality when it comes to the TSA. Some of you will have seen the recent South Park episode with the Toilet Security Administration, and how they portrayed these morons is not far off the mark, because, you know, what kind of people look to get jobs that allow them to perform activities that would otherwise be illegal, unless they were wearing a blue uniform and a badge? Well, of course, that would be criminals. And these are the people groping your children. So we have, in this roll call of TSA criminals just for the past few days, Bryant Jermaine Livingston, arrested for his alleged involvement in a prostitution ring. So he runs a prostitution ring by night. His day job is groping your girlfriend, all for your safety, of course. 34-year-old former TSA screener Andrew Cheever of Boston, this is another one, found to have thousands of child pornography images and videos stored on his home computer. He's just been busted for that. That's what he does at night. In the day, he's groping your kids. And then there's the case of two TSA officers gone wild who got drunk, trashed a South Beach hotel room, then picked up a semi-automatic handgun and fired 6 rounds out the window. The Miami Herald reports Jeffrey Piccolella, 27, and Nicholas Anthony Puccio, 25, were arrested and charged with criminal mischief and use of a firearm while under the influence. And that's just from the past few days. Literally every week, there's a deluge of more TSA perverts and criminals. You know, 3 more outstanding reasons I just listed there for airports to take advantage of these this recently passed law, which allows them to evict TSA screeners and hire their own private security. Finally, the quote of the day. This comes from Michael Crichton. Whenever you hear the consensus of scientists agree on something or other, reach for your wallet because you're being had. Tale of caution there for global warming alarmists and their hordes of believers. We're going to go to break now, and we're going to play the InfoWars Reporter Contest ad, so be sure to get more information on that and jump on board. Then we're going to go to an interview with Horiam Maysan, the Infowars.com writer, about eugenics, Agenda 21, and a number of other subjects. And at the end of the show, we've got those interviews with Joe Arpaio and the Cold Case Posse regarding the Obama birther issue, so stay tuned.